If recent events have taught us anything, it's that mobility will evolve to fit the need at hand. There's so many new ways and improved and or reimagined ways to get from point A to point B, it staggers the mind sometimes. One effort that has only gathered steam, so to speak, since the dark days of the pandemic and before, is the movement to reduce car dependency in urban areas. Now, before y'all throw a wet rock up here, let me explain. The International Transport Forum, which is a consortium of 62 countries around the world, including, by the way, the United States, has issued a 43-page report where they make several recommendations for metropolitan areas around the world to achieve just that. And from them, this is directly from their piece, Making Traffic Disappear. And I'm going to start with a sentence from their report. Reallocating road space from cars to bikes and pedestrians can result in traffic disappearing, suggests a new report from the International Transit Forum. A growing body of evidence suggests that a well-planned reduction of road space for private cars does not add to congestion. Let that settle in for a minute, because I want to read that again. A growing body of evidence suggests that a well-planned reduction of road space for private cars does not add to congestion. They're saying by reducing the amount of roads, reducing the amount of parking spaces available, and other things that we'll talk about, some of their recommendations in a moment, that they believe that at least in urban areas where space is at a premium to begin with, that it will actually help people to rethink their transportation choices, to let them to have them choose something other than the private passenger car, truck, SUV, or minivan. Mm-hmm. Now, they also contend, to be fair, that this has limitations. They know there are some roads you're going to have no matter what, and you're going to have some traffic. So they're not saying that you can get rid of 100% of the traffic, nor are they advocating that. But what they're advocating as a group is reimagining quality of life with a reduction in the use of an inefficient mode of transportation, particularly within cities.
Yeah.
Now, rural, I'm sorry, and they don't even address it, which is fair. When it comes to rural, you're going to have a passenger car for some time. The only difference is, will it be electric? Will it be autonomous? It could be. But you're going to have a passenger car for a while. Micromobility doesn't work well out in the middle of nowhere.
And they also, with context, said that a lot of this requires public mass transit, or at a fair and affordable price for people.
I believe the fair term is quality public transport at affordable prices.
Yeah. And what they're talking about, what we found, cities need more efficient, less damaging, and fairer use of scarce space.
Yeah. And they also, as they were looking at using economics as an incentive, and they also realized that in many industrialized countries, including the United States, that charging, how did they call it? Charging fees for road access was relatively unpopular, even though we've reported on certain cities like New York City, some other cities that were tinkering with it, thinking about it. Mm-hmm. I think there was a stretch of highway in Virginia that was tinkering with it. Tip in London probably leads the world because they did it for their city center with varying success. But when they're looking at the whole big picture. They're looking at noise pollution, greenhouse gases.
Straight up pollution. Yeah.
They're looking straight up pollution, as you said, all sorts of things. Quality of life, reusing space, the hidden tax of the burden of paying for or having that cost incorporated in parking spaces.
Weighing the benefits.
Parking garages.
I like this line here that said the guiding principle for managing car use is to enable citizens to carry out their daily activities without a car and not having to rely on cars to satisfy their transport needs. The question for policy is how to ensure an adequate level of car-free accessibility through other travel options, including public transport, cycling, shared micromobility, and walking.
And before people start throwing rocks, let's take a step back. When I was in college in Boston in the mid-1970s, we had something which still is active called the Massachusetts Bay Transit Authority. Us beloved folks called it the T. For most of the 4 years I went to college, I never owned a car. I owned a car The day before I graduated college, walked across the stage to get my diploma. When I needed a car, I rented one. The T was so elaborate back then. If you lived within 40 miles of Boston, you didn't need a car. You could travel. They had commuter rail, they had surface rail, they had trolleys, and they had subways, buses, basically umpteen different ways to get from point A to point B. And at that time, it was reliable enough to where you could get to where you were going. I mean, I lived in downtown Boston. I worked out in one of the suburbs, and I did all that traveling.
Yeah.
I worked 2 different jobs and I bounced all over the city.
I think even though people, especially in America, do love their vehicles, I also think, at least with the coming generation, there is a realization that people would use rail, people would use buses to get around if it was widely available, and it's just not.
We have to come to a realization. And now, please, full disclosure, I love to drive.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm going to miss driving when autonomous takes hold. But probably by then, I probably won't be able to drive because of how old I am by that time. And I'm a lot closer to that than others. But, change is coming. We need to take a bigger look at how we get around. And there are different ways to do it.
Yep.